Lakes. Healing waters. Being near water is healing. Recent scientific research confirms that people have likely known since the dawn of time. Water smooths us, calms our busy minds, inspires creativity, and gives rise to a sense of wonder. While all kinds of water can be healing, lakes and ponds have a character all their own. They generally have still water, which is quite different from the wild ocean waves or the rush of a flowing river. If you've ever marveled at a landscape perfectly mirrored in a lake, you'd experience a calming power of lakes. A lake biome. Different types of environments cover Earth's surface. These regions and the communities of the plants and animals that live there are called biomes. Deserts, rainforests, and rivers are examples of biomes. So are lakes. Many factors play a part in creating Earth's biomes. For land biomes, which cover more than one-fourth of the planet's surface, two important factors are latitude, how far north or south of the equator a location is, and elevation or height above sea level. Both help determine how warm or cool a place is. For water biomes, which cover nearly three-fourths of the oceans of the Earth's surface, one of the most important factors is whether they contain salt water or fresh water. In this book, you'll learn about lakes and ponds, while most of which contain fresh water. These bodies of water are completely surrounded by land. They have standing water rather than a fast moving current. Lakes around the world. Lakes exist on every continent and within every land biome. Earth's millions of lakes vary greatly in size and depth. The largest is the Caspian Sea, a saltwater lake. Long ago it was named a sea because it is huge and salty, but scientists generally consider it a lake. The largest freshwater lake is Lake Superior, one of the Great Lakes, which are on the border between Canada and the United States. Although we often think of lakes as calm, large lakes such as the Great Lakes have strong currents and possesses some of the characteristics of an ocean. How lakes form. Lakes often form when low areas of land called basins fill with water. Lake basins can form in many different ways. The Great Lakes, along with many other lakes in the northern hemisphere, formed around the 14,000 years ago. At the end of the last ice age, huge glaciers moved slowly, carving out basins and eroding the land. As they moved, the ground up the rock and sediment beneath them, creating tiny pieces called glacier flour. Water from melting glaciers later filled the basins. Volcanoes can also cause lake basins to form. After a volcano stops erupting, rain or melted snow can fill its crater. Water can also fill a caldera, a large depression formed when the top of the volcano collapses during a violent eruption. Some lakes form as a result of water dissolving certain types of underground rocks. Rocks made of limestone or salt are most likely to dissolve. Once they do, the ground above them lacks support, so it caves in and forms a lake. Rocks that dissolve are called soluble, which means able to be dissolved, and the lakes they form are called solution lakes. The movement of the huge pieces of Earth's crust deep underground can also create lake basins. Deep cracks called faults can form when these pieces move. Lake Baikal in southern Russia formed in this way. It is Earth's deepest lake, with an estimated depth of 1,637 meters. Several types of lakes don't begin as a basin that fills with water. Oxbow lakes, for example, are formed by river currents. Some rivers flow in a winding path. Erosion is greater on the outside of their bends. When the current is faster than on the inside, sediment builds up on the inside because water moves very slowly. Over time, those sediments cause a loop to close off and the river to follow a new path. The water that remains in the closed up off loop forms an oxbow lake. Landslides and mudslides can also form lakes. Rocks, soil, and mud that slide down a hill or a valley can pile up, causing a stream's flow to become blocked. Lakes that form in this manner are usually temporary. Small streams can also get blocked by beaver dams. People create artificial lakes or reservoirs. When they build hydroelectric dams on rivers, lakes are not permanent. Even though they may seem to be, given our lifespan, most lakes that exist today are less than 20,000 years old. Lakes eventually turn into wetlands and later disappear completely. A few ancient lakes form as a result of the movement in the Earth's crust. The oldest, Lake Baikal, is at least 25 million years old. Lake zones and organisms. Sunlight often reaches all the way down to the bottom of the shallow lakes and ponds. In contrast, deep lakes and ponds have zones that differ with regard of light, wind, and temperature. The littoral zone is the part of the lake closest to the shore. It has the shallowest, warmest water. Both of the water and the soil beneath it receive plenty of sunlight, which allows plants and algae to live there. Some plants, such as cattails and reeds, are rooted and stick up above the surface of the water. Other rooted plants, including pondweed, grow completely underwater. Perhaps the best-known plants in the littoral zone are rooted plants with floating leaves, such as water lilies. Other plants, such as duckweed, float freely on the water. Many animals make their homes in littoral zone plants. These include insects, frogs, crayfish, snails, pond sponges, worms, and small fish. Many also lay eggs on the plants. The limnetic zone is the open water near the surface in the middle of the lake. Like the littoral zone, it receives plentiful sunlight and supports plant growth. Microscopic organisms known as plankton, phytoplankton, and zooplankton live there. Along with many fish, the water contains a lot of oxygen. The profundal zone, located beneath the limnetic zone, is colder. Because of its depth, it doesn't receive sunlight. Fewer fish live here because oxygen levels are low during certain seasons. The benthic zone is the sediment at the bottom of the lake. Most of this zone is cold and dark. Worms, clams, and other fish live here and are food for certain kinds of fish, that organic matter from other zones fall to the benthic zone, which is broken down by bacteria. Lakes support many animals that aren't strictly aquatic. Frogs, salamanders, turtles, muskrats, otters, beavers, alligators, loons, ducks, geese, herons, and others require both land and water habitats. Lakes also provide food for visiting animals, such as moose, raccoons, and migrating birds. In addition, ponds are breeding grounds for many different types of organisms, and the lake plants often offer hidden places to raise babies. In winter, lakes and ponds freeze from top to the bottom, but most never freeze solid. Many organisms are able to survive winter in deep water. People and lakes. Lakes and ponds have been important to people since ancient times. Ships have crossed large lakes and traveled and trade for travel and trade. Ships have crossed large lakes for travel and trade. Farmers have used the water in lakes and ponds to irrigate their crops. Today, lakes supply much of our drinking water, as well as water, to cool power plants, steel mills, and chemical plants. Reservoirs store water that can be used in case of drought. Lakes also provide plentiful opportunities for recreation. Fishing, boating, swimming, and water skiing bring thousands of people to lakes each year. Camping, hiking, photography, and watching wildlife are also popular, as are ice skating and ice fishing in winter. Peace and beauty. When we think about how lakes form, we are reminded that our planet is constantly changing. Yet the glassy surface of the secluded lake shows us that nature can also be serene. Lakes invite us to take comfort in the beauty of wild places. They also call on us to slow down and pay attention to our surroundings. The American writer Henry David Thoreau was so impressed that they could call by that call that he left his regular life in Concord, Massachusetts, to live alone at the Walden Pond for 2 years. During that time, he lived simply while studying nature and writing about it. In his words, a lake is the landscape's most beautiful and impressive feature. It is Earth's eyes, looking into which the beholder measures the depth of his own nature.